She was just a child who trusted a man she lived with. The detectives didn't find the answers to this for the longest time, and finding the answers eventually led to a series of events. In this video, we will be talking about the rape and murder of Rowan Ford. Get seated as we explore one of the most complicated rape and murder cases. Rowan was 9-year-old when this incident happened. Her mother, Colleen, inquired with Rowan's stepfather, David Spears, regarding the whereabouts of her daughter. According to Spears, Rowan spent the night at a friend's place. Despite thoroughly searching the entire neighborhood, Colleen is still unaware of her daughter's whereabouts. Upon returning home from her night shift at the Walmart Supercenter in Jane, Colleen Spears immediately sensed that something was wrong. Usually, Rowan would welcome her in the driveway on Saturday mornings. However, on that Saturday, there was no greeting. According to Spears, he was asleep on the couch when his wife woke him up to inform him that Rowan was missing. He informed the authorities that he had mentioned to his wife, Rowan, that she might have informed him about spending the night at a friend's house, but he couldn't recall. Time passes without any updates on Rowan's whereabouts. So, Colleen quickly calls 911 to report her daughter as missing. Unfortunately, officers were unable to locate Rowan. Therefore, they focused on Rowan's stepfather, the individual who last saw her. Authorities quickly grew suspicious of Spears. Spears and Collings had been friends for a long time, and during the summer and fall of 2007, Collings stayed with Spears' family for several months. Collings slept in the basement, and Rowan called him Uncle Chris. In late October of 2007, Collings relocated to his family's farm and resided in a travel trailer on the property situated in Wheaton, Missouri, in Barry County. Authorities interviewed Nathan Mahurin, a mutual friend of Collings and Spears, regarding the events leading up to Rowan's disappearance. As per Mahurin, the three individuals crossed paths at a farm where they were employed. They visited a liquor store to purchase a couple of 6-packs of malt liquor and later gathered at Spears' place to enjoy a game of pool and some drinks. Colleen departed for work at 8:30 p.m., entrusting Rowan to Spears' care. The men kept drinking after buying more alcohol. In the evening of that day, Collings asked Mahurin to take him back to his house. It worked. Mahurin and Collings were able to get Spears to come with them, leaving Rowan at home by herself and sleeping on the floor of her bedroom. When they got close to Collings's trailer, they stopped to get more alcoholic drinks. During their time at Collings's trailer, they drank booze and smoked marijuana. After an hour had passed, Mahurin and Spears also left to go home. Mahurin chose to take the back roads instead of the straight highway to get to Spears' house because he was drunk and didn't want to get pulled over by the police. Leaving Spears behind, Mahurin got back to his house before midnight. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when Colleen got home from working the night shift. While Colleen was still searching the house, she woke Spears up and asked where Rowan was. During his conversation with Colleen, Spears told her that Rowan was living with a friend, but he couldn't remember who the friend was. Even though Colleen wanted to call the police right away, Spears said Rowan was with his friends. When officers from Newton County talked to Collings on November 4th, they did so in the parking lot of a nearby restaurant. The officers heard the same story about what they did that night from Collings as they had heard from Mahurin. However, Collings did not say that they had smoked marijuana. While Mahurin and Spears were gone, Collings told the officers that he stayed at home and went to sleep. As an explanation, Collings said that he had not talked to Spears because he had left, and he didn't know that Rowan was missing until the cops called him. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, joined the investigation on November 5th. But people in the neighborhood were still looking for Rowan. Newton County deputies continued to question Spears, while FBI agents searched and took Spears' pickup truck and a car that Spears' mother said she had rented to Spears after Mahurin dropped him off the night Rowan disappeared. While this was going on, Newton County officers went to Collings's place of work and asked him to answer some more questions. Following the terms of the deal, Collings drove himself to the sheriff's office. At that time, he said something very close to what Collings had said the day before. Adding salt to injury, he agreed to both a polygraph test and a computer voice stress analysis procedure. Furthermore, Collings kept saying that he had no idea where Rowan was and offered to help in the search for him. Wheaton Chief of Police, Clinton Clark, was doing his regular rounds around the city of Wheaton as the afternoon went on. Collings and Chief Clark were together for 17 years. Collings told Chief Clark that Rowan had gone missing and that he was looking for her when they saw each other. Collings would get kind of excited and not his normal self, as Chief Clark put it. Collings had called Chief Clark after their chat to talk about Rowan's disappearance. Chief Clark then told the FBI about the call. It seemed to Clark that Collings knew something about Rowan's absence, so he offered to help with the investigation. He was told by the FBI to keep talking to Collings, and was told to do so. On November 9th, the worst fear a mother could have had came true. The place where Rowan's body was found was Fox Cave. It's not really a cave in the sense that you and I think of a cave, Jennings said about the cave in question. I think it's more of a pit. About 20 to 30 feet from the road, the opening was found in an area with lots of trees. It turned out that Rowan was only wearing one sock. It didn't take the police long to figure out that someone was trying to do harm. As soon as Rowan was found, Collings told the police the truth about what had happened earlier that night. At the time, Johnny Cox was the prosecutor for Barry County. He was the one who told the lawyer about Collings's statement. The medical report said that Rowan died because he was strangled. It was said that Collings killed someone in the first degree, raped someone by force, and raped someone legally. All of them were used against him. Collings would eventually file a request to suppress, in which he would try to get information about all the statements police took from him during the investigation thrown out, along with any information gathered from searching his body, pickup truck, trailer, and property. For the death of Rowan Ford, the judges found Collings to be responsible. In 2012, Collings was found guilty of first-degree murder and given the death penalty. Singer Spears, on the other hand, admitted to putting children in danger and was given a sentence of 11 years in jail. Rowan Ford's case changed not only her family and friends' lives, but also the lives of the officers who worked to save her life and get her back home. Investigation and proceedings. Collings alleges that law enforcement officers took advantage of his close friendship with Chief Clark. According to Collings, Chief Clark employed a manipulative tactic to make him confess, taking advantage of their close and long-standing father-figure bond. Due to their relationship, Collings claims that Chief Clark presented himself as a friend rather than a law enforcement officer, leading Collings to believe that he was acting in Collings' best interest. According to Collings, Chief Clark was aware of this connection and received support from other law enforcement officials to keep engaging with Collings until he obtained a confession. In Spano, the police tried to obtain a confession from a defendant following his involvement in a deadly shooting. The defendant endured a lengthy interrogation conducted by multiple law enforcement officials throughout the night for further information. The defendant refused to answer any questions until a childhood friend, who happened to be a young police officer, spoke to him. The childhood friend made 3 attempts to get a confession from the defendant. He mentioned that if the defendant didn't give him a statement, he would lose his job, which would cause problems for his pregnant wife and young children. The defendant eventually gave in to his childhood friend's questioning after a 4th attempt in the early morning. The defendant's confession was deemed inadmissible by the United States Supreme Court due to its coercive nature. The court determined that the defendant's childhood friend's use of the false friend technique to obtain a confession was an important factor to consider when evaluating the overall situation. Collings emphasizes how law enforcement used his relationship with Chief Clark to manipulate him into confessing, similar to what happened in the Spano case. Nevertheless, it became clear from the evidence that law enforcement solely concentrated on Spears as the main suspect throughout the investigation. Law enforcement thought that Collings might be more willing to talk to Chief Clark because of their relationship. However, they believed that Collings only had information about Spears' involvement and not that Collings was responsible for Rowan's disappearance. Furthermore, it is clear that Collings was aware that he was interacting with Chief Clark in his role as a law enforcement officer during each interaction, rather than as a close friend. Collings consistently reached out to Chief Clark during the investigation, either by visiting his office at the police department or contacting him on his office cellular telephone, specifically regarding matters related to the investigation. Collings contacted Chief Clark's office on November 9th to inquire about his duty hours in order to have a conversation with him. Collings expressed frustration with other law enforcement officials and informed Chief Clark that he would only communicate with him if necessary. Collings acknowledged his intention to inform Chief Clark about his involvement in Rowan's disappearance as early as Monday. He had multiple chances to come forward, yet he made the decision to withhold the truth. All of these circumstances show that Collings believed Chief Clark was genuinely investigating Rowan's disappearance and not trying to trick him into confessing. Collings stated that law enforcement officers took advantage of his fear of vigilante justice to coerce him into confessing. During the suppression hearing, Collings shared that he had eavesdropped on a conversation at a nearby restaurant. The discussion revolved around the possibility of vigilante justice for Rowan, which caused Collings to express concern about potential unauthorized actions being taken. On the day he admitted to Chief Clark, Collings also voiced anxiety, saying he feared for his safety because he was being followed by someone in a gray minivan. During one of the recorded interviews, Collings requested to be separated from the other detainees due to concerns about his safety. Collings' concerns about the community's desire for vigilante justice were unfounded, as law enforcement officials did not exert any coercion or pressure on Collings to confess. Chief Clark made it clear to Collings that he couldn't provide round-the-clock protection, which is the same for every resident in Wheaton. During the suppression hearing, Chief Clark made it clear that he did not make the protection of Collings contingent upon Collings' willingness to cooperate with him. Chief Clark implemented measures to ensure the safety of Collings, and any statement regarding this was a result of Chief Clark fulfilling his duty as a police officer. In addition, it is important to note that Collings's subjective belief is contradicted by the record. Throughout the recorded interviews, Collings consistently emphasized that his statement was not coerced in any way and that he did not face any threats. Collings' actions before, during, and after Rowan's murder suggest that he calmly considered his actions when causing her death. After deciding to go back to Spears' home to retrieve Rowan, Collings opted for the fastest route, confident that if he hurried, he could reach the house before Spears and Mahurin. Collings later took Rowan from her home, against her will, and brought her back to his isolated trailer for his own sexual intentions. Collings proceeded to take Rowan inside and engage in non-consensual sexual activity with her despite her resistance. Collings made sure to speak in a way that would prevent Rowan from recognizing his voice and kept the lights off to conceal his face. Once Rowan saw him, Collings became visibly disturbed. He quickly grabbed a nylon cord or rope from the truck and proceeded to strangle her until she stopped moving, which took a few minutes. Although Collings claimed that he did not have any intention to harm Rowan when he took her from her home, and that he only strangled her out of panic when she recognized him, the jury had the discretion to question the credibility of these statements. In addition, the court's standard of review necessitates disregarding any conflicting evidence that does not align with the jury's verdict. The evidence presented strongly supported the conclusion that Collings intentionally planned and carried out the murder of Rowan, providing substantial grounds for a first-degree murder conviction. The arrest. Collings was arrested on November 9th, provided with legal representation, and brought before the court on November 13th, 2007. Chief Clark attended the arraignment and heard the defense counsel caution Collings against discussing his case with anyone. Collings requested a meeting with Chief Clark on November 14 to discuss a personnel legal matter that is not connected to the murder case. Upon Chief Clark's arrival, he informed Collings of his rights before proceeding with the conversation. Chief Clark informed Collings that he was not allowed to engage in any conversation until Collings addressed the additional questions regarding Rowan's murder and clarified the discrepancies between his statement and Spears' statement. Instead of ending the discussion, the conversation carried on for about 40 minutes. Chief Clark consistently requested Collings to address any remaining concerns and provide clarification on certain aspects of the case. Chief Clark emphasized the importance of resolving these matters and moving forward. Chief Clark made it clear to Collings that he had no intention of pressuring or coercing them into answering any questions. Collings made it clear on multiple occasions that he was unable to provide any answers regarding the case due to legal advice. Whenever Collings asserted his rights, Chief Clark acknowledged them, but persisted in asking questions and making personal remarks about their relationship in an attempt to elicit a response from Collings. Collings expressed his disagreement with the murder charges brought against him to Chief Clark. Despite receiving advice, he chose not to answer any of Chief Clark's questions. Collings was eventually sentenced to death for her rape and murder. No one could have imagined how this whole crime turned up, but luckily they were able to solve it, even if it took so much time. This is the end of this video. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to this channel for more.